Hello everyone. This is the first in your sentence diagramming explanations. I'll be doing one of these each week to kind of recap what you've done in your diagramming assignments and to make sure that you're understanding what's going on. Just to let you know, I am going to be hopefully offering some helps as far as identifying parts of speech. Subjects will be in red and verbs will be purple, and that will help. And then I'll just talk you through it, talk about what part of speech they are, how they're functioning, how to diagram it, and then how to identify the sentence pattern. So this first one, the first noun is story, so that's going to be our subject, goes on the first part of that main line. We have the long vertical line dividing the subject from the verb. The verb is has been. It's split up by the adverb, but those are the two verbs. And then we end with popular, which is an adjective. I always diagram those main parts of the sentence first, the things that are going to be on the main line, and determine sentence pattern. And then I kind of backtrack and fill in the other words. So far we have a subject, a be verb, and an adjective makes this a pattern too. And I often identify the sentence pattern before I completely diagram the sentence because it tends to get sometimes visually complicated once you put all of the other elements in. So when it's nice and simple and I have my essential elements, I'll stop and do the sentence pattern. And then we just need to put all of our modifiers in. So our subject has two modifiers. It has our definite article, the, and Cinderella is a noun, but in this case, it's functioning to define story. So it's functioning as an adjective. So that goes below story. Always is an adverb. It's answering the question of time. And so when you're dealing with time, that's going to be an adverb. So it goes below the verb that it's modifying. And tremendously is another adverb that's modifying the adjective popular. The next one, we have story as our noun again. We have two verbs, can be. The main one is a be verb, so we know we're going to be working with pattern 1 through 3. And then we have a couple of prepositional phrases. I tend to isolate these by putting parentheses around it, just so I can visually focus on the main part of the sentence. So we're going to get to the prepositional phrases in a minute. We've got the word one here, which is a noun. So far we have our noun, story, can be are the two verbs, and then we're ending with a one as the subjective complement. That's separated from the verb with this backslash, and I kind of think of that as an arrow, an imaginary arrow pointing back to the subject, showing that this noun is qualifying or describing the subject of the sentence. And I can stop right there and say that this is a pattern 3, and then we can backtrack. We've got this that's modifying story, and then we jump to our two prepositional phrases at the end. We have of great appeal, and that is modifying 1. If you're not sure what the prepositional phrase is modifying, I tend to tack it onto different parts of the main line and see which one fits better. So story of great appeal, that would work, but that's already all the way at the beginning of the sentence. Can be of great appeal or one of great appeal. And that makes the most sense, that it's telling us what type of one we're talking about. And then we have the to all ages that goes below. Keep in mind with prepositions, you have your prepositions on the slant. Nouns, it doesn't matter where they are, how they're functioning, always go on horizontals. So your nouns go there, and then any modifiers are going to go below the noun. The next one, our subject is motif, and our verb is, so another be verb. And then we have everywhere and a prepositional phrase. So that's our basic sentence right there, is a subject and a be verb, which makes it a pattern 1. Then we go back and stick in some of the same modifiers that we've seen before. Everywhere again is answering a question of time, so it goes below the verb. And in our culture is answering the where question, and that's another adverb question, so that prepositional phrase is also diagrammed below the verb. In this sentence, we have tale as our subject. We have two verbs. Our helping verb is should. The main verb is be. And then we have tradition following a noun plus a prepositional phrase. So we have subject, tail, should be our verbs, with the main verb being the be, and a noun, tradition, as the subjective complement. So that makes this one another in pattern 3. And then we just put in our modifiers, also being the adverb, indefinite article, and the tradition. We're talking about what tradition? It's tradition for future generations. So the prepositional phrase goes below the noun here. Lots of prepositional phrases on this one, and this is a good example of seeing how it can help you really isolate and simplify a sentence if you can block out the prepositional phrases for a minute. So our subject is actions, and then we have a prepositional phrase. Here's our were, past tense of be, and then the rest of it is basically prepositional phrases. So I can kind of isolate my main elements, and then we can go back and put things in. We have a definite article. Of the stepsisters is telling us what actions we're talking about, particularly whose actions. And so that's going to be diagrammed underneath the subject. Out of line. This is a great one to illustrate when you use a pedestal. So out is our preposition, out of line is our prepositional phrase. It's following the verb. It's in the predicate. So that's the first criteria for putting a prepositional phrase up on a pedestal. It is following the verb. It's in the predicate. It's functioning as an adjective. It's talking about the actions. So it's modifying this up here, which makes it a subjective complement. It's telling us more about these actions. Their actions were out of line. So it's functioning as an adjective, modifying a noun. That's the second criteria. So it needs to be in the predicate, following the verb. Number 2, it needs to be functioning as an adjective. And number 3, it is figurative rather than literal. They weren't standing in a line and getting out of that line. The stepsisters weren't. And in particular, the actions weren't. Actions can't do that. So it's a more figurative, maybe inappropriate. That's another test you can do, is see if you can substitute a one-word adjective for that prepositional phrase. And if it makes sense, then it goes up on a pedestal. So the actions were inappropriate, out of line. So we put it up on a pedestal because it meets our 3 criteria of being in the predicate, of functioning as an adjective, and being figurative rather than literal. Again, the 2 prepositions out of go on the slant, and our noun again always goes on that horizontal. With the boundaries is modifying line. How were they out of line, or what were they out of line with? And that's with boundaries. So that prepositional phrase is dependent, modifying that noun line. And then what boundaries are we talking about? We're talking about the boundaries of normal behavior. So again, preposition on the slant, noun on the horizontal, and the modifier below. This one, our subject is fear. We skip over the preposition, and remains as our verb. That's one of those kind of fuzzy feeling linking verbs. So we know this is going to be a pattern 4 or 5, depending on what follows. And what follows is an adjective. Evident is modifying fear as the subjective complement. So we have fear remains evident, which makes that a pattern 4. Subject, linking verb, adjective. And then we go back and put in our definite article, our prepositional phrase talking about what fear is it? It's the fear of these new family members. And where does it remain? In children. And today is, again, answering that question of when. So that's an adverb question. It goes below the verb. Subject here is children. We have 2 verbs, again, split by an adverb, and they can feel. And then we have another couple of prepositional phrases. In danger, again, meets those 3 criteria. It's in the predicate, it's functioning as an adjective, and it is figurative. They're not literally in a town named Danger or a place named Danger. So that one's going to go up on the pedestal in that subjective complement slot. And how are they in danger? What kind of danger are we talking about? And it's from step parents. So that prepositional phrase here goes here. And then the last thing we have is are easily, which is an adverb talking about how they are feeling. So this makes this a pattern 4. Subject, feel is one of those linking verbs, and then we have our prepositional phrase functioning as an adjective, and that makes pattern 4. While I'm here, just remember that pedestals with adjectives can only be in patterns 2, 4, and 9, because those are the only ones that have adjectives in the predicate. So if you come up with a pattern 5 that has a pedestal, then you know that something's wrong. Aschenputtel is our subject here. Seems is one of those vague linking verbs. Seems what? Seems a vehicle. Again, this is a noun functioning as a subjective complement, that arrow pointing backwards to the subject. So that's a pattern 5 with subject, linking verb, noun. Then we have our indefinite article and 2 prepositional phrases. What kind of vehicle are we talking about? It's a vehicle for exploration. And what are we exploring? We're exploring those spheres. This one we start with a prepositional phrase, so we're going to skip ahead. Our subject, our noun here is life. Looks is our verb, and that is one of those linking verbs, a verb of sense. And then we have hopeless, which is an adjective, modifying life. So that makes it a pattern 4 with subject, linking verb, adjective. We have our possessive, Aschenputtels, which goes below life. In the beginning, even though it's at the beginning of the sentence, is going to go underneath the verb because it's asking a question of time. When did life look hopeless? And it was in the beginning. So that prepositional phrase is diagrammed below the verb because it's functioning as an adverb. Story, again, is our noun. Becomes is that linking verb. Becomes what? A tale is our subjective complement. So that makes this a pattern 5 with subject, linking verb, noun. And then we put in our possessive, our adverb finally, answering question of when, our indefinite article, and our adjective for tale. And that is it for this week. I hope this kind of helps you understand what the process is, how you start to pick apart sentences. Again, we're no longer looking at meaning, which is what your relationship with English has been up to this point. We are now shifting completely to function. What part of speech is this? How is it functioning? How is it relating to other elements in the sentence? If you don't understand this, please let me know somehow. Email me, drop me a line somehow. This is our foundation for the entire semester. We're going to be using these same ideas, these same principles, these same elements, and building on it, using more complex sentences, more different parts of speech. So it's really important that you understand this now because it will come back to haunt you later in the semester.